In a powerful and defiant statement, Brazilian Supreme Federal Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes has responded forcefully to being targeted by sweeping U.S. sanctions reportedly backed by former President Donald Trump. The sanctions, as a response to alleged human rights violations, have sparked a diplomatic firestorm, bringing Brazil's judicial independence to the center of an international political controversy. Justice de Moraes, who is leading multiple high-profile investigations into former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro and his allies, declared that the Supreme Court of Brazil will not bow to what he described as a cowardly and calculated attack on the rule of law. Sanctions with political overtones. The sanctions, introduced under the U.S. Global Magnitsky Act, include asset freezes, visa bans, and heavy trade penalties on key Brazilian exports. Justice de Moraes, along with 7 other top justices and their families, have been barred from entering the United States. These measures come amid ongoing legal proceedings in Brazil, where Bolsonaro faces charges related to orchestrating an attempted coup, spreading disinformation, and undermining the integrity of Brazil's democratic institutions. While U.S. officials claimed the sanctions address alleged judicial overreach and censorship of political speech, critics argue the move is deeply politicized. Former President Trump, known for his public support of Bolsonaro, has openly criticized de Moraes in recent speeches, calling him a left-wing tyrant and claiming the Brazilian judiciary is engaged in a political witch hunt. Moraes responds, "There will be no surrender." Speaking from Brasilia, Justice de Moraes delivered a searing rebuttal. The Supreme Federal Court is not a political institution. It is a guardian of the Constitution. No foreign power, no matter how influential, can dictate how we uphold our laws, he stated. This is an attack not just on one judge, but on the sovereignty of Brazil. He accused a network of domestic actors with foreign ties, including certain Brazilian expatriates, media figures, and members of Bolsonaro's political circle, orchestrating the sanctions as part of a broader campaign to destabilize Brazil's democracy. It is cowardly and treasonous, he said, without naming individuals. Though political insiders believe this was a reference to Bolsonaro's son, Eduardo Bolsonaro, who has recently been lobbying U.S. lawmakers. Brazilian government stands firm. President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva immediately condemned the sanctions, calling them an unacceptable intrusion into Brazil's internal affairs. Speaking at a press briefing, Lula emphasized, "Brazil is a sovereign nation. We respect international norms, but we will never accept that our institutions be manipulated or threatened." The Brazilian Foreign Ministry summoned the U.S. ambassador for an explanation, while lawmakers across party lines, except Bolsonaro, loyalists voiced rare bipartisan support for the judiciary. Protests have erupted in major cities, with demonstrators waving the Brazilian flag and chanting in defense of democracy. Global reactions and warnings. The international response has been mixed. Human rights organizations have expressed concern over de Moraes' broad use of censorship against social media platforms and conservative figures. However, many legal scholars and democratic institutions around the world have warned that sanctions could set a dangerous precedent where judicial decisions in one country become subject to economic coercion by another. Prominent political analysts have called the move an example of judicial intimidation disguised as diplomacy. One analyst observed, "It's ironic that the US, a country that prides itself on judicial independence, is now interfering in a foreign court's legal process." A pivotal legal moment at the heart of the controversy is de Moraes' oversight of the investigation into the January 8, 2023, riots in Brazil, when Bolsonaro supporters stormed government buildings in a chilling echo of the U.S. Capitol attack on January 6, 2021. De Moraes has become both a symbol of resistance to authoritarianism and a lightning rod for critics who accuse him of wielding too much unchecked power. Under his orders, dozens of Bolsonaro allies have been arrested or placed under investigation for disseminating fake news, plotting against democratic institutions, and financing extremist groups. Bolsonaro himself has been barred from holding public office and is under house arrest. Pending further legal review, "We are the line between law and chaos" in his closing remarks. Justice de Moraes reiterated the court's role in preserving democratic order. "Let no one be mistaken. We are not acting out of vengeance, but out of duty. When democracy is attacked, silence is not neutrality, is complicity. The Supreme Court will not be silent. We will not bow." As tensions continue to rise, the coming weeks are expected to test the strength of Brazil's institutions and the limits of international political influence. For now, Justice Alexandre de Moraes stands resolute, a symbol of judicial resistance. In an era increasingly defined by polarized politics and global interference,